Hey, brothers. Sorry for the late message, but I wanted to share this with you while it was still fresh on my mind. We had a great event downtown. Everything was fantastic. The water was piping hot for hot chocolate and hot coffee, so we are very grateful for that dispenser, Kurt. I also wanted to kind of share an encounter I had, and I think it might be tied to John's dream. And it's also tied to the message we had today in class of being a victor and winning the crown, running the race and being the winner of the race. And I think we even said victor a few times, or some of the versions we read. Anyway, after the group finished and we split up, I had seen one of the guys when I was driving around looking for a parking spot that usually is off by himself. So after all the crew, our team left and went home, I went looking for him. His name's Brian. And so I went looking for Brian. I couldn't find him, but I went through LBJ Park, which is right next to Tranquility Park, and there was a guy on the bench. He was the only guy in the whole park, in LBJ Park, on the bench, eating a beef jerky stick. So I went up to him and asked him if he wanted some water, and Karen had made some homemade sugar cookies, and so I gave him some cookies and some water, and I looked down at his feet, and his shoes were falling apart. He had strings tied around the top of them, holding the top to the soles, and I mean, it was just awful. So I said, well, you need shoes, and what else do you need? He said, I need a jacket, and I need some gloves, and I said, okay. And he was an older guy. I mean, I would say probably in his late 60s, early 70s, had a raggedy beard, and his skin was white and wrinkly and just looked like old homeless guy. So I talked to him for a few minutes and asked him his name. His name is Victor. And I said, well, do you usually stay here? Is this where you usually hang out? Because I can swing by during the week and bring you some shoes. What size do you need? He told me what size he needed. And he said, yeah, I usually hang out here or down over at the docks. I said, at the docks, is that safe? And he said, well, it is for me because I've got people that watch out for me. I said, okay, well, let me make a note because I want to make sure I remember. So I typed myself a email note to remind myself to get Victor some 10.5 shoes and a good coat and gloves, and that he stays at LBJ Park or the docks. And I felt like I should have stayed and talked with them some more, but I didn't. And so I left, and as I was driving off, I was like, well, I should just give him my shoes and my jacket. But then I thought, well, my shoes are 13s, and he's always on his feet, so he needs shoes that fit him right. And about that time, Karen called me, and I told her I just met Victor and what he needed. And she said, well, I can run by the Benz, Goodwill, and go find him. I said, well, I'll meet you there. So I met her at the Goodwill Benz, and we looked and looked and looked, and a guy overheard us, and he grabbed a pair of 10.5 shoes and said, here you go, here's 10.5 shoes, and gave us shoes, found a jacket right away. And so it got dark, and I got all the stuff that we could find. We couldn't find any gloves, but I went back. Karen had her own car, and I went back downtown to see if I could find him, but now it was dark. But I went right back to LBJ Park and went right back to the bench, and he was there laying on the bench sleeping, had his head covered. And I was walking up to him, and I said his name because I didn't want to startle him. You never know if he's armed or he's old and have a heart attack or something, so I didn't want to freak him out. So I said, hey, Victor. And he kind of uncovered his head and sat up, and I said, I got you some stuff. Let's see if it fits. And gave him the jacket. And I said, let's try this jacket on, make sure it fits. And he stood up and he put the jacket on and he was real happy. He's like, man, now this is a jacket. He's like, what I've got is a windbreaker, but this is a jacket. Thank you. And he looked up. His face looked up. He was looking down at the jacket and his face looked up. And when his face looked up, he looked like a young man, and his face was actually glowing. It was yellowish. His skin looked clear and healthy and young. His beard looked healthy. He looked like he was probably in his late 30s or early 40s. And I was thinking, is this the same guy that I saw earlier? And he had a big smile on his face, and I gave him the shoes and a new pair of socks and a big blanket, new beanie. I said, come find the gloves, but he was happy to get what he got. And I didn't want to just hang around and watch him try on everything and just linger. So I just told him, I said, Victor, God loves you. Jesus really loves you. And he looked at me and he said, and he loves you. And the way he said it with a confidence that he knew personally that Jesus loved me. And then when I got home and I was reflecting about it, and I was praying and thinking about it and going over it in my mind, it almost kind of feels like he was an angel, or there was an angelic experience or something, because it seemed like it was a totally different person when I went back the second time. And so I was just sitting here talking to Karen about it, and then I shared John's dream about God giving him a hug, just letting him know he loved him. And then I was thinking about your lesson today because I asked Karen, I said, is there any angels in the Bible named Victor? And she's like, victory? And I was like, well, wait a minute. That was our lesson today, was being a victor and winning the race and overcoming. And it's just funny how it all ties in together. And whether or not it was an angel or just an angelic experience or something, I think it was God just giving me a hug and telling me that he loved me. And I thought it was pretty cool, and I wanted to share that with you guys. I love you. Sorry it took so long. Hope you have a great night.